few years back, I was working for a pizza shop in my hometown. It wasn't the best job, but it helped me save money for this new car that I really wanted. Anyway, I'll never forget the most bizarre delivery that I ever had. I was working the late night shift. I was the only driver working, and it was a pretty slow night. We got a call around 10:30 for a large pizza to be delivered to a house about 15 minutes away. I packed up the pizza and headed on my way. The house was on a steep hill. It was in some backwoods part of town full of thick trees. I pulled up to the house and cut off my engine. It was a normal house, but what was strange was there were no lights on. Like, not one. I checked the address on the slip to make sure the address was right, and it was. I went to the front door and knocked on it. I listened closely for any sounds of footsteps. There was nothing. I knocked one last time, this time harder to make sure that they heard me, but there was nothing again. Pissed off that I'd wasted gas money to come up here, I turned around and headed back to my car. But as I did, I heard the front door open. I turned around and saw this tall, bald man standing there with his head poked out the front door. I told him that I'm here to deliver the pizza. He didn't smile or look happy or anything. His face was just a blank wall. He said, "Okay, good. Bring the pizza to the back door." And before I could question why he couldn't just take it right there, he shut the door. I started walking around to the back side of the house. Mind you, it was very dark outside, and his lawn was not taken care of. The grass was literally almost to my shins. Anyway, I got to the back, and I see a single door. I knock on it, and it opens just slightly. I can see the man with the bald head just standing there, but here's what's bizarre. All the lights were off in the house, like I said, but even with the door slightly open, I could see like 20 people standing behind this bald guy, just staring at me. I couldn't see the features on their faces or anything, but their eyes all glistened in the moonlight. The bald dude opened the door even more and asked if I could bring the pizza inside for him. As he opened the door even wider, I saw even more people standing directly behind him, just literally staring at me, not saying a word. I have no clue what the hell was going on, or why there were like 30 people in a dark house not saying a word. At this point, I felt like I had to get the hell away. I put the pizza on the ground and said to enjoy it. I didn't care that he didn't pay, and I'd just pay for it if it meant me getting out of this place alive. I sprinted back to my car and got in. I turned on the gas and started to back out of the long driveway. Right as I was about to pull away, I took one look back at the house. Standing on the front lawn of the house was like 30 people, all standing still and watching my car. I sped away so fast, I was surprised that I wasn't pulled over for speeding. When I got back to the pizza shop, I clocked out and went home. I only worked at that pizza place for like a year, and then got a job at a gas station, but I still have nightmares about delivering to that house. But to all my people who deliver food, be careful out there. It's no joke. There are absolute weirdos out there. Thanks for listening. Alright, so this was by far the weirdest and creepiest pizza delivery story that I have. Back when I was 17, I worked as a pizza delivery driver. I usually worked the late night shifts because that's when we would actually get a bunch of orders coming in, believe it or not. It was a Friday night, and we were pretty swamped. I had a route going out for about 7 different customers. My whole route was fine and normal until I had to deliver my last pizza. My GPS took me to some park that was way out on the outskirts of our town. I pulled into the park's little parking lot that it had and looked at the address on the ticket. It was indeed this spot, but my first thought was, who orders a pizza to a park, especially at 11 p.m. at night? And just for context, this park was just a few benches surrounded by miles and miles of woods and overgrowth. So I got out of my car, looking around to see if anybody was nearby. There was nobody. Like, it was absolutely deserted, and I started to get pretty freaked out. And that's when I decided that I would call the number that was on the ticket. As I was calling, I started to hear this ringing coming from the woods. Now I was really starting to get freaked out. I got back into my car. If I couldn't deliver the pizza, it wasn't the end of the world. I turned on my car, and I shit you not, standing right next to my driver's side window was this kid. Like, he had to be maybe 10 or 11, and the weirdest part was, he was dressed in really nice clothes. It almost reminded me like he was going to church. At this point, I was freaked the hell out, but I rolled down my window a bit and asked the kid if he was okay. He nodded his head and said the pizza is for us. The kid used the word us, but all I could see was just him. I asked who was with you, and the kid said that he was with his dad, and then pointed at the dark woods. The kid handed me $20 and said that I could keep the change. He then took the pizza and started walking back to the woods until I finally couldn't see him anymore. Terrified that some man was going to jump out with an axe, I got out of the park like a bat out of hell. When I got back to the pizza shop, I told everyone what happened. Everyone thought it was the craziest thing, and they never heard anything like it. I mean, I even contemplated calling child services and telling them a child was living in the woods with his supposed dad, but I ultimately didn't. I quit that job a few months after that delivery. It was by far the weirdest and creepiest delivery that I ever had. I'm still traumatized by this story to this day. Last year, me and my best friend Emily were having a sleepover at my house. And for context, we were both in high school and 17 at the time. My parents were away for the weekend and we had the house to ourselves. I hope my parents don't hear this part of the story, but we pretty much smoked weed the entire night. We watched movies, played PS5, and watched funny TikToks. Around 11 at night, we suddenly got super hungry. Like, I remember I could have eaten a whole bowl of pasta in one sitting. We both agreed that a large pizza with mushrooms would be absolutely delicious, and we decided to order a pizza. But unfortunately, since it was almost midnight, most of the pizza shops around us were closed. Emily pulled up Grubhub on her phone and found a pizza place that I had never heard of before. I think the name was like Little Rico's or something like that. They had no reviews, and the place looked almost brand new. We didn't care about any of that because we were so hungry, and it said they were open till 1 p.m. We thought this was a blessing from God, so we ordered a mushroom pizza and a side of garlic knots. The Grubhub app said that they would be here in 45 minutes. By this time, it started thundering and lightning outside like crazy. It was getting so bad that we thought the windows might break. After about 45 minutes, we saw this white car pull up to the front of my house. We figured this had to be the pizza delivery guy. The car sat directly in front of the house for like 5 minutes. I figured maybe this guy was just waiting for the rain to let up, but that's when I got a phone call. I picked it up, and the person said they were with Little Rico's for our pizza delivery, but he was having trouble finding the right address. I told him that he found it. He's parked right in front of my house, and to come up to the porch. The guy said with all the rain that he couldn't see the addresses too well, and that I could please come out to him and get the pizza. This was super weird. In any other circumstance, I would be pissed off, but Emily and I were literally starving, so I told him I'll be right out. I put on a sweater, which didn't help at all because it was raining so hard. I walked outside and saw the white delivery car in front of my house. I sprinted over to it, already drenched to the bone. As I got about 5 feet from the car, all the doors opened up, the 2 back ones and the 2 front ones. 4 men stepped out, all wearing ghost face masks. The 2 closest to me tried to grab me and pull me into the car, but because of the heavy rain, I was able to just barely slip out of their grasps. I bolted back to my house, crying and locking the front door. I told Emily to go make sure the back doors and windows were all locked. I looked out my front window and saw all 4 men in ghost face masks just staring at me in the pouring rain. I grabbed my cell phone and called my next door neighbor, Phil, who's my dad's good friend and owns a gun. He picked up despite it being so late. I told him frantically what was going on and that he needs to get over here now. By the time I hung up the phone with Phil, the guys outside were gone. When Phil came over with his gun and we knew that it was finally safe, we tried to call little Rico's back. The line was disconnected. We tried to go back onto Grubhub and find out more info about the pizza place, but we couldn't find it on there. Like, it was gone. Nothing like this has happened since. Now when I order food, it's gotta have multiple reviews and not a brand new place, so that I know it's real and not some kind of setup. No one was ever caught for this, by the way. So please, be safe out there.